What's going on, guys? Welcome to We Got a Problem. So on the Politics Live show earlier, we had a Labour activist from the Another Europe is Possible group who wants Commissar Corbyn and the Communist Party to unequivocally back Remain and ignore the democratic vote to leave in 2016. And he is also saying about how they're not happy that Labour are not doing what they want. Now, this soy boy was talking with Andrew Neil about the party's stance on Brexit and the activists' plans to disrupt London with protests and takeovers. Now, let's take a look.
While we wait for that result, let's turn briefly to Labour. The Shadow Cabinet met yesterday to decide whether to back a wholehearted Remain position, and it wasn't entirely conclusive. There's a surprise. Let's speak to Michael Chesham. He's a Labour activist who wants the party to back Remain. Are you worried that Jeremy Corbyn is now stringing you along on this issue?
I don't think it's that Jeremy Corbyn's stringing us along. I think it was disappointing that the Shadow Cabinet didn't move the position more clearly on Wednesday. I think it's likely to move next week. It's kind of inevitable that Labour will end up being an anti-Brexit party. Look, we're organising a wave of motions to Labour Party conference in September, and we're going to deliver a huge mandate there for a clear anti-Brexit position, for an unequivocal backing of freedom of movement, and for a radical programme to sort of transform Europe. So really, it's delaying the inevitable for Labour to string this out any longer.
And I understand, you know, it looks like the tide is with you in the Labour Party on this, more people coming round to your point of view. But as you've said, you're not there yet. So who is the roadblock to reform?
Well, look, I think it's pretty clear that the overwhelming majority of Labour members want the party to move.
No, we know that. I'm asking you who's holding that up. If it's not Jeremy Corbyn, who's holding it up?
Well, look, I think the honest answer is that it's very difficult to actually tell, because the people who are holding it up are, to be frank, not that accountable. It's very clear that John McDonnell, Diane Abbott, Keir Starmer, Emily Thornberry, even Jeremy himself, not necessarily an enthusiast for a fresh public vote, but certainly willing to go there.
So who are the people holding it up then? If you know them, who are they?
Well, look, I don't want to get into a name calling. Look, the Labour Party is going to end up
name calling. I'm simply asking you who you think you're on the wave of an inevitable trend. There are people holding it up. It hasn't happened yet. I'm asking you who are they, if not Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, look, I think there are senior unelected people at the heart of the Labour machine. I think the Labour Party's got a problem. Has got a problem with machine politics.
Who are they?
And I think they need to...
All right, Chuka Amuna will throw out some names and see if you agree. Chuka, just name one.
Len McCluskey's
all right, Len McCluskey, is he holding it up?
Yeah, look, I think it's a real shame. Look, I'm a member of Unite.
But is he holding it up?
Yeah, look, I think the role that Len McCluskey's played in this has been
all
a problem.
Right, so we got Len McCluskey, a bit like blood out of stone here. What about Seamus Milne, the head of Mr. Corbyn's office?
I'm sorry. No, this isn't blood out of a stone. This is about me wanting to talk about the actual politics of the situation.
Yeah, but I'm trying to work out who's stopping you.
Well, fine, and I think you can ask whoever you want to give that answer. The important thing here is the politics of the situation. We're about to enter a period in which a hard right-wing conservative prime minister is going to try to drag us out of the EU without a deal or on a hard deal basis, with no mandate, and we have to resist that, and Labour has to resist that. That's the political discussion that we need to be having here.
And what you want in response to that, as I understand, I think you're on the record, is a summer of mass occupations, disruptive protests, and wildcat strike action. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Look, I think we are now in a position where a hard deal Brexit... We need to be clear about what a hard deal or a no deal Brexit means.
No, we know what that is. I'm asking you what your actions are going to be. Do you think that wildcat strike action...
I'm really more than happy to get to it.
Or mass occupation...
Yes, you're right.
Do you think
that I'm on the record, so why are you interrupting me?
Do you think that's a way to win hearts and minds?
Well, I mean, actually, there is a long tradition in Britain of protest, of disruptive, of quite radical protest, when governments take decisions in a completely unaccountable way. We're about to enter a period where we're going to get an extreme right-wing Tory Prime Minister trying to wreck communities and open up the NHS to privatisation via trade deals with Trump's America, with almost no, in fact, no popular mandate. Under those circumstances, I think people have the right to take civil disobedience and to take all non-violent action that they can to attempt to disrupt that extreme agenda.
I understand the logic of your case and what you plan to do or hope to do. Who's going to organise these mass occupations and wildcat strike action?
Well, look, I think we've got a really interesting situation. We've had 1 million people march against Brexit. We've had hundreds of thousands of people march against Trump. We've got a very active anti-Brexit movement. We've also just had Extinction Rebellion take place. I think all of the ingredients for a big summer or a big wave of a serious direct action protest movement are there. They need to be brought together, and it's up to the leadership of the Brexit movement, of the anti-Brexit movement, but also but also of the Labour movement to start to put these pieces together and show some serious concerted opposition.
You mentioned the big anti-Brexit march in London, which was in a very British tradition of a massive, peaceful march, which was all planned and didn't disrupt anything. And I watched that on television and looked at the faces and the people. Do you think these are the people who will take wildcat strike action?
I think it's certainly something that we should be willing to consider. Look, I think that if you've got a situation where you're in a situation where a government is going to wreck communities, wreck the future of the country and wreck public services with no mandate, I think it's absolutely legitimate to have a conversation about where the boundaries of dissent end. And the boundaries of dissent don't just end at passive A to B marches. We've got a long history of passive A to B marches. They have their role in protest movements. But actually, I think, yes, we've got to be willing to look towards more radical measures.
Well,
if you've got an opposite side, the Tory party, bent on a pretty hardcore...
We need to leave it there. Michael Chesham, thanks for that. Let us know if there are going to be any strikes, because lots of people are going off with their families on holiday, and they would probably like to know if you're going to disrupt their planes. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see if we are in for a summer of discontent.
So he discusses his disappointment with the Labour Party not backing Remain 100%, even though we know they mostly do right now. They will soon out and out say it. This, I expect, will happen when Boris becomes Prime Minister. I noticed when pressed, this activist did not want to blame Commissar Corbynov or other MPs for holding up their party's attempts to block Brexit by explicitly becoming a party that ignores the democratic vote. Now, I expect he refused to blame the Commissar because he fears being sent to the Gulag. Dissenters are not welcome among the Socialist Workers' Party. He gets a bit salty when pushed on the topic and resorts to call him what can only be assumed as Boris Johnson, a hard right-wing Prime Minister. Boris is not hard right-wing at all by any sense of the word. He just knows Brexit is the doom of the Tory party, so he needs to make sure he gets Brexit done. But to the left, anyone who wants Brexit is a right-wing 1930s fascist by the London mayor and snivelling fuckpig Sadiq Khan's measure, so if you adhere to democracy, then you're a fascist, I guess. Andrew Neil then asked this shitweasel about his plans to cause massive disruption and protest, which this idiot says yes he is. Protesting what, you moron? The people voted to leave in 2016. You Ramona's lost. Suck it up, princess. Now the soy boy then goes on to once again call the next Prime Minister an extreme right-wing Prime Minister who is going to sell the NHS off. Now I've already debunked this nonsensical claim that the government will sell off the NHS. It's nonsense. The only party with a history of selling the NHS to foreign companies is the Labour Party, who allowed EU companies into NHS contracts in the early 2000s. Now Project Fear really needs some new material. Trump himself rubbished the NHS sale idea as soon as May likely told him it will never happen. This fuckpig then goes on to the false claims of hundreds of thousands marching against Trump. No, we discussed this at the time and the BBC confirmed it. It was a few thousand people at most listening to Commissar Corbynov scream and shout about the president, while failing to disclose he had requested a secret meeting with the God Emperor, which got rejected. So yet again we have another lefty who does not believe in facts and just parrots nonsense. His claims that the Tories will wreck the economy with a no-deal Brexit are completely without foundation. I have been hearing recently that if we end up with a no-deal Brexit, then the UK sheep farmers will be out of business, which is obviously complete bullshit. Britain leaving the EU is not going to stop people eating lamb or using wool to make products to be sold to us. We will still eat lamb after Brexit. What the fuck have these people been smoking to think food and clothing goods providers will go out of business? We are leaving the EU, not the fucking planet. This soy boy fuckpig has reached peak stupidity in my opinion. Now I'm going to leave it there. I can't take much more thinking about this snivelling shit weasel. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Leave a like and share as it helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you all in the next video.